Alright, let's do this. So, yesterday, you remember what it is? You missing that camera?
Stop it.
No.
Stop. You press stop.
Is it still recording?
No.
No.
Alright, so yesterday we talked about the quadratic formula. Okay, and we learned a song.
Oh, what?
Are you guys ready to sing it?
No.
I forgot it.
No.
I remember.
I need to sing it one time first here.
Yes.
Never recite it without singing.
X equals
Negative b plus or minus the square root
up
of
to
b squared minus 4ac all over
2a.
That's all they remember.
I finally got the right number.
Okay, good. Alright, you guys got that number?
Again.
We're gonna do it. Ready? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. That was a little faster. Ready? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You guys want to sing in country?
No.
Please excuse interruption. Marjorie Holmes, Chance
Sarah,
Berry,
you're
and
ruining my
Sasha
video.
Braddock. Please report to the conference room at this time.
Did you actually turn it? Yeah.
Make sure it's lined up again. Got it? Okay, we're gonna sing it in country. Ready? Cowboy, cowboy country.
Are you
Ready?
gonna post this on YouTube?
X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. How's that?
That was pretty good.
Pretty bad.
Yeah, can we vlog with you?
One of the other ones sometimes I like to sing is opera. You guys want to do an opera one?
No.
I
You
don't
can
know.
do it.
Hey, you do it.
If you actually hit the high notes, that'd be funny.
I can't.
Wrap it.
Alright,
Yeah.
Wrap it.
I don't got rap in me right now.
Wrap it. Come on.
Great.
You guys got some,
Someone get a beat going.
yeah. Who's doing it, you?
No,
I
you.
can't do it, I can't rap. It doesn't rhyme, you know, rap needs to rhyme. Question of the quadratic formula.
I just want to hear
You
it.
have to have that memorized for the test when we do it. So, let's actually do some practice problems today on that. We won't have an assignment today. Alright, so here's my problem. So 2x squared plus 25x plus 33 equals 0. Okay, I want you to solve that. Now remember, the quadratic formula is one of three ways. What does it find? What does the quadratic formula tell me on a parabola? On a graph? The roots where it crosses the x-axis, correct. Okay, so on your paper right now, I can't have a y equal to 0.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
That's a little weird. How about that? Okay, so there's my parabola. Is it smiling or frowning?
Smile.
Smiling, and what is the y-intercept on that parabola? 33, correct. Okay, so let's do the quadratic formula on there. So plug in your A's, your B's, and your C's. Actually, I'll do this one with you, maybe. Do you want me to do it with you, or you guys got it? Got it? Someone's got it, some don't. I'll do it with this one with you. So you gotta know what your A is, what your B is, and then what your C is. So therefore it's negative 25 plus or minus the square root of 25 squared minus 4 to 33 all over 2. Okay, so you're plugging into the quadratic formula like this. And then once I have done that, what do I try to simplify first? Before I even do that, I will do the square root, yes. I want to change the bottom into what number? 4. Okay. Now this one, did I have to put parentheses around the 25 right here underneath the square root?
No.
No, because it's not negative. If it was negative, I would do that. Okay, so all you do then is take your calculator and plug everything that's underneath the square root into it. Okay, but don't put the square root above it. We'll do that later. So just like that, just like it's written. Okay, and we get the number 361. And then the question is that a perfect square? So I would check it next. I'd do a second square root, 361. And what's nice about that problem?
It's a perfect square.
It is, yes. So therefore, I get negative 25 plus or minus, this turns into what number here? 19 all over 4. Okay, so if you're doing it in your calculator, what would I type in here? Negative 25 plus 19. You hit enter, and then divide by what? 4, hit enter, and then you can go math fraction. So negative 3 halves.
You have to write it as fraction.
Normally the book will leave it as a fraction, so then I would, yes. Okay, then I would do what here? Negative 25 and then minus 19, hit enter. And then divide by what number here? 4, hit enter. And the other crossing, or my zero of the function, would be at negative 11. Okay? So right now, if you want to do a rough sketch of this parabola, we know that it was smiling because this a is positive. I know that its y-intercept was at a positive what here?
33.
33. Okay, so it crosses up here at positive 33. The other crossings are at negative 1.5, which would probably be about right here, so negative 3 halves. And then negative 11. So you see how you can kind of tell where your parabola is going to kind of look? What things don't we know on this one yet if we haven't solved for it? We didn't find the, what's this called again? Axis of symmetry, and then what's this point down here called? Vertex. I want to show you something kind of cool. We can actually find the vertex. What's the formula for the vertex again? X equals negative b over 2a. Does that look familiar right now?
Please excuse interruption. Talia Vasquez and Michael Duran, will you please report to the conference room? Thank you.
Okay, does this look familiar to anything?
All beginning of the equation.
You guys notice right here? Is that negative b over 2a?
Yes.
Also known as the vertex. So then, if I did that, wouldn't that just be this number right here? Negative 25 over 4. Which couldn't I then just go negative 25 divided by 4 and get negative 6.25? And if I'm graphing, you don't need to turn it into a fraction. So then this would be at negative 6.25. And then you wanted to find negative 6.25. The vertex, how do you find the vertex if you know what the x coordinate is? You take that and you plug it back in. Okay? So quadratic formula not only finds the x-intercepts, it also has the vertex right here, negative b over 2a. Gosh, got everything for us there. Okay? Alright. Let's try another one here. I'll let you guys try this one now and I won't do it. Here is your equation. I want you to solve this equation. So x squared minus 8x equals 33. Okay, so on your paper right now, let's try that problem. using the quadratic formula.
Wait, so then when with negative b, would it be a positive a because it's already negative? Okay.
Remember, first thing you gotta do on any of these problems is what?
Set equals 0.
Set it equal to 0, correct? Because we're looking for the zeros of the function, because that's where the x-intercepts are. What number's in front of that x squared?
1.
A 1, so your a is 1 in your formula. This is all over 2a. Good plug-in. And because this is b squared.
Are you supposed to get a decimal?
No.
Wait, so the short one should be the b. This one should be a too.
Yes. Both of those 32 should be.
Wouldn't it just become a?
That would be yes.
I still get a negative. Can't you have negative?
You can have a negative at the end, yeah. But it's not coming with the square root. B squared. C is negative 33.
Oh, wait. Can you tell me what I do now?
Yep. You put a negative on 33, yeah. Yeah, you don't put the parentheses on the negative h.
Oh.
Yep, that's where your mistake is right there. Okay, I'll solve this one for you guys right now. I'll show you some of the mistakes I've seen when I've been walking around. Okay, the a is a 1. Okay, so x equals negative b. So it's negative, but then it's b is a negative 8, which then that will turn to a positive 8. Plus or minus the square root. Now here's the other mistake that some of you guys have made when I walked around. B squared. Some of you went in your calculator negative 8 squared, which is incorrect because the square only goes on what here? The 8. So if I want the negative to be included in that, what do you got to include with this? Parentheses. So get in the habit of that. B squared minus 4a. C. Here's another mistake that I saw. C is a what here? Negative 33, so you gotta have the negative with it. We gotta bring all the negative signs that are with the numbers into my formula. All over to a, and then again a is 1. Okay? So now, at this point, you can take your calculator out and plug in. Okay, who remembers the name? I gave you a name for this stuff underneath here yesterday. What was the name for this called? Starts with a D.
Discriminant.
Yep, discriminant. Okay, that is called the discriminant. So on the test when we have it, I don't remember if I asked you it to find the discriminant or not, but it's either this year or next year. One of the tests has a question of finding the discriminant. Okay, so let's plug this in. Parenthesis negative 8 parenthesis squared minus 4 parenthesis 1 parenthesis, and then negative 33. Okay, now I want to show you something here. I made a mistake on purpose here. Sometimes this is what's going to happen in your calculator. I'll hit enter here, and it says a syntax error, and it says quit or go to. Whenever it says go to, always do the go to, because then the calculator will take me to my error of what's wrong. So if I hit go to here, what's wrong with my problem
That's a
here?
minus.
It's a minus sign instead of a what here?
Negative.
Negative, so then I should actually click the negative button down here. And then when I hit enter, do I got a number that works? 196, yep. Okay, so now, negative, 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 positive, so it'd be 8 plus or minus the square root of 196 all over 2. Okay, 196, is it a perfect square? Second square root, 196. And that's nice, it turns into what here? 14. So I actually have 8 plus 14 over 2. And then what's the other answer? 8 minus 14 over 2. Okay, and then you can just plug them in. So 8 plus 14. Okay, make sure you hit enter there before you do that. Divide by 2. Okay, and then do the second one. I have the dollar. So, no. Divide by 2, and we get 11 as one answer. So one crossing is at 11, and then 8 minus 14, hit enter, and then divide by 2, and then we got negative 3 as my other crossing. Okay, we could actually do a quick rough sketch of this parabola right now. Is it smiling or is it frowning here? Smiling, and it's crossing. Its y-intercept is at what? Y-intercept. Negative 33 is the y-intercept. So if I had this on a graph, let's see, 11, right here. Okay, we'll put negative 33 down there. Okay, it crosses at about 11, which we'll say maybe is here. Okay, and then it crosses at negative 3, which is here. Okay, and it goes something like this. Now my other question is, what's the axis of symmetry? Could I find that right now?
Yes.
Messy. Where's the vertex or the axis of symmetry located? The first part of it. Isn't this right here the axis of symmetry? X equals negative b over 2a. So what number is this at? 4. So then at 4 here, wouldn't I have an axis of symmetry coming down?
Yep.
Whoa.
Nice.
Okay. So axis of symmetry, and then if I want to find the vertex, so if I know 4 is the axis of symmetry, how do you normally find the vertex then? We take that 4 and do what to it? Plug it back into here and here. So it'd be 16, negative 32, I think that gives me negative 16 left over. And then negative 16 plus 33 would be negative 49. So I'm thinking it's negative 49. That's a rough guess, quick math, I might have done something wrong, but questions on that? Alright, how many got that one almost to the end there on the quadratic formula? Okay, how many got it completely to the end? Okay, let's try another one here. I think just the more you do them, the more you're gonna get better at them. So let's do this one here. X squared minus 16x plus 64 equals 0. Okay, so on your paper, use the quadratic formula and find the solution for the x-intercepts in this parabola. That's in my book. It was an extra problem.
it supposed to be though?
It's a nice number, yeah? Yep.
You have to put two answers down or just one?
Do the same answer, so if you want to write them both, you can, but if you don't want to, you don't have to. I just write one. Alright, so on this problem then, I got x equals negative b, which would be negative 16, plus or minus the square root. Now, what you gotta remember here with this b, parentheses, yes, so b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. You guys struggling to not sing it and keep going through that now? Huh? Okay, so then from that step, I am going to plug it in. Negative 16 squared minus 4ac. And what number did we get? Okay, so the discriminant is now 0. We talked about that yesterday. What does everything else simplify into? What does this turn into? 16 plus or minus the square root of 0 over 2. And what's the square root of 0 turn into? 0. So it'd be 16 plus 0 over 2, and then 16 minus 0 over 2. Well, is 16 plus 0 and 16 minus 0 the same number? So it'd be 16 over 2, which is? 8. Okay, so you technically get 8 twice. Do I need to write it twice though? Nope. Okay, let's look at this parabola and see what this one looks like. So is this smiling or frowning? Smiling, and it crosses the y-intercept at what? 64 is my y-intercept, the number at the back. Okay, so if I was going to graph this, it crosses way up here at 64. Okay, and it crosses on the x-axis at 8. Okay, what is the axis of symmetry, or the vertex, the x-coordinate for the vertex? 8. So then there's a dotted line coming down here through at 8, right? Okay, if it's a dotted line and it's symmetric, right? Axis of symmetry, wouldn't this be 8 units this way, so it'd go 8 this way and be symmetric? Do I have a rough sketch? And then the other thing, I guess, is the vertex. If I did the vertex, 8 would be my x-coordinate of my vertex. If I plug 8 back into my equation, 8 squared is 64. Okay, and then what's 8 times 16 give me quick?
128.
Okay, give me 128. Actually, give me 64 plus 64 minus
It's 0.
128. Did that give me 0?
Yes.
Okay, so then my vertex is at 8 on the 0, so then you see how it hit here? So this parabola comes down, it hits, and it goes back up. Okay, and this spot here, where it hits, is called a double root. So when my graph bounces off of my x-axis, I call it a double root. And the reason why it's called a double root is how many answers of the same answer did I get? 2. So I got 2 8s. It's called a double root because it will bounce at that spot. Okay? So when what was the name for this number underneath the square root? When the discriminant is 0, you're always going to get a double root, and it's always just going to touch the x-axis one time. Okay, and that'll happen every time with 0. Okay? All right. Questions on that one? All right, let's give you another one that's a little bit harder. All right, this one is not going to be a nice number, but you can still simplify it. Actually, you want me to do, I'll do an example of this first, and then I'll have you do it. Okay, so I'm going to do example 3 here. So 2x squared plus 6x minus 7 equals 0. I'll do this one with you. Okay, so we're going to find these zeros of the function of the x-intercepts. Alright, so x equals negative b, so be negative what here then for b?
You don't have to make it,
Don't check to divide. right?
yeah.
Only when we do completing the square. So you're thinking we gotta divide by just 2, you're saying? If we were doing completing the square, then yes, you would divide by 2 and then move that over. Okay, but I'm gonna do quadratic formula, which all I need to know is what's my a, what's my b, what's my c, and then I'm ready to rumble. Okay, so what's my a up here? 2, what's my b up here? 6, and what's my c up here? Negative 7. So with quadratic formula, so completing the square found the quadratic formula for me, but when you have the quadratic formula, it doesn't matter what your numbers are, you just plug them in. Okay, so x equals negative b, so negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 6 squared minus 4, what's a here? 2c, which is a what? Negative 7. All over 2, and then what's a again? 2. Okay, I think you already know how to plug it in. I think the issue is going to be the simplifying on this one, because this one doesn't come out to a perfect square, which is okay. Okay, so plug this into your calculator for me. 6 squared minus 4,
92.
and then 2, and then negative 7.
92.
What is it?
92.
92, positive or negative?
Positive.
Okay, did everybody get 92 when you plug it in?
Yeah.
Okay, so 92 is what you get for my discriminant. All over what here?
4.
4. Okay, so here's what I gotta do now. I need to take 92, and I need to think what perfect squares go into 92. So again, the perfect squares would be 1 times 1, 2 times 2, 3 times 3, 4 times 4, 5 times 5. I'd start with 4, and then I'd work my way down and take 92 divided by these numbers. So I'd probably go 92 divided by 4 first to see. Okay, so it does break out nicely. So I'd say square root of 92 will break into square root of 4, which is a perfect square, and then square root of what? 23. So 4 times 23 will get me to that 192. Okay, so we're breaking apart my square roots into perfect squares. What does the square root of 4 turn into here?
2.
2, so that is now a 2, square root 23. Does 23 have any other nice numbers that go into it, or is it prime? Prime, correct. So 23 does not break down any further. So now if I rewrite this problem, it would be negative 6 plus or minus 2 square root 23 all over 4. Okay, and again, these are the x-intercepts. Now, that would be done, except there's actually one more thing I can simplify up here. You guys notice all the integer numbers up here? So the negative 6, the 2, and the 4? They're all divisible by 2, so since it's a fraction, I can divide them all by 2. And that will be my final answer then.
So you don't solve it even though there's the square root.
Right, so you're going to leave it as a square root on these ones. So now if I want to find where it crosses the x-axis, I'm going to have to plug it in my calculator and get a decimal so I know where it lands. Okay, but for some reason in this section, they're working on simplifying square roots versus plugging the calculator the whole way.
Oh.
Okay, so if I simplify these 3 numbers by 2, what would my answer be?
Negative 3 plus or minus square root 23.
Square root 23 all over 2. Okay, and I don't need to put the 1 there. If you want to put the 1 there, you can. But I don't need to have a 1 there because I know that 1 times that would just give me that. Okay, and then this is my final answer. So for this section of the chapter, they're not wanting you to actually plug it in. They just want you to leave it in that square root form. Okay?